Hi, it's Brian. Welcome to the Awards Contender, and it's time for me to reveal what I would vote for at the upcoming Oscars if I was an Academy member. I made this video last year and you all seemed to enjoy it, so let's do it again. Now, there are 5 categories I'm not going to be talking about in this video because I haven't seen all the nominees: international feature, documentary feature, and the 3 shorts categories. But I've seen everything else. So there are 18 categories I'm going to talk about. I'll start with the below the line categories in alphabetical order, and then I'll move into the top 8 categories. Are you ready? Here we go. Alright, let's start with Best Animated Feature. The nominees are The Boy and the Heron, Elemental, Nimona, Robot Dreams, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. This one is an easy call for me. It's not even close. I would vote for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. This was one of the best theatrical movie-going experiences I had in 2023, especially last summer. There was kind of a lull at the theater between like April and mid-July, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse got me out of that lull when I saw the movie in June. This film is extraordinary. I wish it had gotten into more categories, but at least it's here, and I do think it's winning. In Best Animated Feature, I would vote for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Next up is Best Cinematography. The nominees are El Conde, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. So I just watched El Conde. What a weird ass movie that is. Like 2 hours long, beautiful black and white cinematography. It's a horror film, which I didn't know going in. I didn't even realize it was a vampire film. No, I wouldn't be voting for that one. I also would not vote for Maestro. I don't think that needs to be here. Academy members definitely like it when there's black and white in a movie. Like if you shoot part of your film or the whole film in black and white, you have a pretty good chance of getting into Best Cinematography. Now, I could feasibly vote for Killers of the Flower Moon or Poor Things. I'm very close here to voting for Poor Things. I love the look of that movie. It is a visual feast, but I gotta go with the movie here that's going to win the Oscar, and it would get my vote as well. It is an extraordinary visual masterpiece of a film. My vote in Best Cinematography would go to Oppenheimer. Alright, next is Best Costume Design. The nominees are Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. Whew boy, this is another tough one. For me, it comes down to Barbie and Poor Things. Both are extraordinary examples of costume design in the movies, and they're both very bold and creative and dazzling in so many ways, and it's a close call for me. I mean, both of these films are in my top 10 list. I love them both, but if I was an Academy member and I had to vote for just one of these, I would go with Barbie. I just think that one takes the edge a little bit because of the vast ensemble of characters in that movie and so many unique choices of costumes that really bring this movie to life. I adore the costumes in Poor Things as well. It's such an integral part of that narrative, like what Bella is wearing and why throughout those 2 hours. It's very, very close for me here, but my final vote in costume design would be Barbie. Next is film editing. The nominees are Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. Some really cool nominees here. Nothing super flashy, like Anatomy of a Fall and The Holdovers being in Best Film Editing. That's not necessarily the thing you think of first when you're reflecting on what's great about those 2 films. But like especially in Anatomy of a Fall, the way we jump around in time, that works really well in that film. And The Holdovers is so beautifully paced throughout. I'm happy with that nomination too. I would not vote for either of those movies. I would definitely not vote for Killers of the Flower Moon. which I felt went on way too long and could have been tightened by a lot. So my vote here is either Oppenheimer or Poor Things. I mean, it's kind of a toss-up. I love the editing in both, but if I had to make the choice, my final vote for Best Film Editing is Poor Things. Alright, now we have Best Makeup and Hairstyling. The nominees are Golda, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and Society of the Snow. Am I going to vote for Golda here? No, not happening. The only time you'll hear about the Golda makeup on this channel moving forward is going to be in a video called The 5 Best and 5 Worst Nominations of 2023. Yes, that video is coming. I like the makeup in Society of the Snow and Oppenheimer. It's fine, but there's nothing super exciting about either of those choices. I do think this comes down to Maestro and Poor Things. I do think if Maestro can win one Oscar, it will be in makeup and hairstyling. I mean, it's pretty impressive throughout the movie. It's always believable how both Bradley Cooper and Carey Mulligan age throughout the narrative. I was impressed by that. It's tough, right? When you're talking about these technical categories, you shouldn't necessarily just vote for the movie you love the most. You should be voting for the best makeup or cinematography or film editing or whatever it is. But I don't know, because I love Poor Things so much more, the makeup job on Willem Dafoe is extraordinary. It's one of the great makeup jobs we've seen in the movies in many years. And then this category is called makeup and hairstyling. And I do think hairstyling plays a pivotal role in this movie, especially with Bella. Like, the length of her hair, what her hair looks like, is a major factor in her character growth throughout the movie. So, although I do admire the makeup and hairstyling in Maestro, my final vote for makeup and hairstyling is Poor Things. Alright, next up is Best Original Score. The nominees are American Fiction, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. Would you be really pissed off if I chose Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny? I mean, it's fine. That's a fine score. I don't hate that nomination like most people do. I mean, I love John Williams. His body of work is incredible. And I mean, this might be his final competitive Oscar nomination. We don't really know, but like, I'm okay with that being there. I would not vote for it. American Fiction, that score is fine. I do enjoy the Poor Things score a lot, but it's not one I love to listen to outside the movie necessarily. My vote here would be either Killers of the Flower Moon or Oppenheimer, but to be honest, it's not that close. It's Oppenheimer. Come on. I mean, that is one of the great movie score soundtracks in recent years. I feel like it's been the case for most of Christopher Nolan's movies. Like, you can just listen to the music from his films while you're working in your office, while you're writing, and it's just great work going all the way back to like Memento and his Dark Knight trilogy. So much great music, and Oppenheimer is no exception. In Best Original Score, my vote would be for Oppenheimer. Okay, next is Best Original Song. The nominees are The Fire Inside from Flamin' Hot, I'm Just Ken from Barbie, It Never Went Away from American Symphony, A Song for My People from Killers of the Flower Moon, and What Was I Made For from Barbie. This is another category where it's not even close for me. It would be one of the two Barbie songs. I'm Just Ken is really fun, but I do think that song is better in the movie. If you just listen to it on its own, it's okay. I do think What Was I Made For is the clear standout in this category. I think it's probably going to win. It won at Golden Globes. I know Billie Eilish and Phineas O'Connell just won a Best Original Song Oscar 2 years ago for No Time to Die. I think this song in Barbie is even better than that one. I feel like it's by far the most popular song in this category, and I do think it's the best song. my final vote in Best Original Song would be What Was I Made For from Barbie. Alright, now we have Best Production Design. The nominees are Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. I feel like I've been saying these titles a lot the last few minutes, right? It's like some of these technical categories, you just say the same 4 or 5 titles over and over again. And when you get to a category that has some different titles, you're like, oh, exciting, this is great. Like movies that aren't showing up everywhere else. I mean, these are just the standard bearers, especially in the below the line categories, and they are all deserving, including Napoleon, a movie I didn't much care for, but on a technical level, it was pretty strong. And if I had to vote for something in Napoleon, it would be production design, probably. Like, that element is pretty spectacular in that movie. Same with Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, obviously. I do feel like my vote here would be either Barbie or Poor Things. Here we have it again, the battle between these two movies. It's happened before, like in costume design. I'm still not entirely sure what's going to win at the Oscars here. For a while, I thought it was going to be Barbie, but then there was a recent ceremony where they were awarding production design, and in the fantasy category, they went with Poor Things. So Poor Things might have the edge here in terms of what might actually win at the upcoming Oscars, and it has the edge here in terms of what I would vote for. Although I would give my vote for Barbie in costume design. In production design, I'm siding with Poor Things. The look of the film is so great, and the production design, the way those buildings look on the outside and the inside, it's not a specific time period we're in, but there's this really cool historical feel and kind of a futuristic feel as well, all throughout that film. I love that movie, and I love that production design. I mean, honestly, this is kind of an easy choice for me. My final vote in Best Production Design would be Poor Things. Okay, moving on to Best Sound, the nominees are The Creator, Maestro, Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning Part 1, Oppenheimer, and The Zone of Interest. So this is a really cool category, an interesting blend of movies. We have 3 films here that are in Best Picture, and then we have a couple titles that only showed up in technical categories, The Creator and the latest Mission Impossible movie. There are so many ways Academy members could vote here. They could go for a movie like The Creator, which has extraordinary sound design. They could go for the frontrunner for Best Picture, Oppenheimer. That win would make sense. And then they could go for The Zone of Interest, which has amazing sound work, like really unique sound work throughout that movie. And then even Maestro makes sense as a possible win because of all the music in the movie. So in terms of predicting what's actually going to win, this one is a little difficult for me. I'm not quite sure at this moment what is going to take Best Sound at the 96th Academy Awards. But in terms of what I would personally vote for, this is a pretty easy call. I would vote for The Zone of Interest. When I watched this film at the Telluride Film Festival last September, I didn't love the movie as much as other people really seemed to love it, but I did recognize on that first viewing just how extraordinary the sound design work is throughout that film. Like, if The Zone of Interest can win one Oscar, it should be for the sound design. It is truly impeccable work that should be recognized. My final vote for Best Sound is The Zone of Interest. Alright, it's time for the final below the line category. The nominees for Best Visual Effects are The Creator, Godzilla -1, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, and Napoleon. So here's another category I feel is very difficult to predict what's going to win at the Oscars. I mean, pretty much any of these could take it. I mean, there's not a Best Picture nominee here. There's not a clear frontrunner, so I will be curious to see what actually takes this next month. In terms of what I would vote for, I mean, I admired the visual effects in Napoleon, And the creator, I do think the creator could win. I like the movie well enough. The visual effects are pretty great throughout that film, and it could get my vote, but I have to go with the visual effects that truly blew me away, especially when I found out the budget for this movie was around $15 million, which is insane. Godzilla Minus One, first off, looks beautiful just in terms of its cinematography, but you bring in those extremely impressive visual effects considering the budget. This looks like a $100 million movie, easily. I was really impressed with the film overall. I really enjoyed it. And those visual effects are striking. My final vote in visual effects is for Godzilla Minus One. Okay, so let's move into the top 8 categories, starting with Best Adapted Screenplay. The nominees are American Fiction, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. So when it comes to what's actually going to win at the Oscars, I do think it comes down to American Fiction or Barbie. Those seem to be in the top 2 slots. We shall see what happens. I'm kind of leaning toward American Fiction right now because it's slightly overperformed on Oscar nominations morning, but I would not pick either of those for my personal vote. When it comes to screenplay, I mean, I'm just going to go with the movie in the category I love the most. That makes sense to me. I mean, I could vote for Oppenheimer. I don't really think The Zone of Interest should be in this category. I think All of Us Strangers should be in the place of The Zone of Interest, personally. But yeah, Poor Things is one of my 3 favorite films of the year, and I do think that screenplay by Tony McNamara is fantastic. Creative and daring and bold and unpredictable in so many ways. My final vote in Best Adapted Screenplay is Poor Things. And in Best Original Screenplay, the nominees are Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Maestro, May December, and Past Lives. What the hell is Maestro doing here? Like, Maestro can get the Best Picture nomination, the acting nominations. Best Original Screenplay? That's not one of my favorite nominations this year. Like, we could have had a really cool lone nomination there for like Saltburn or something. Instead, we get Maestro. It's like, I'm not a fan. It's like, it doesn't need to be there. But I think if you've been following my channel for the last year, you know what I'm going to vote for in Best Original Screenplay. Like, at this moment, I do think Anatomy of a Fall has the edge to win. And The Holdovers is also a great choice here. But yeah, my favorite film of the year is Past Lives. And so, obviously, in Best Original Screenplay, that's the film I want to win. I would love for Celine Song to win an Academy Award for her screenplay to Past Lives. It would be so well deserved. She did just win a DGA award for that film, so it's not outside the realm of possibilities. But because Anatomy of a Fall overperformed to such an extent on Oscar nominations morning, I do think that film is probably going to win here. However, if I was an Academy member and I was voting, my final vote in Best Original Screenplay would be Past Lives. Okay, and moving on to the acting categories, let's start with Best Supporting Actor. The nominees are Sterling K. Brown, American Fiction, Robert De Niro, Killers of the Flower Moon, Robert Downey Jr., Oppenheimer, Ryan Gosling, Barbie, and Mark Ruffalo, Poor Things. So we pretty much already know who's going to win Best Supporting Actor at the Oscars. This is Robert Downey Jr.'s moment. He has been the frontrunner since Oppenheimer opened last July. And even though there were like some other contenders floated around for a while there, I just always felt like Robert Downey Jr. was going to take this one. The industry loves him. This is a great time to reward him for his performance in Christopher Nolan's movie and for his body of work in general. He's never won an Oscar. I do think that's happening, but he would not get my vote here. He would actually be, I would say, in 4th place, maybe. Like, if I was an Academy member, I would not vote for Robert Downey Jr. I think he's very good in Oppenheimer. I don't think it's necessarily worthy of an Academy Award, but I mean, sometimes these career narratives happen. Jamie Lee Curtis won an Oscar last year, so I don't know. But for me, this comes down to Ryan Gosling in Barbie and Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things. Both are kind of these incredible, memorable, full-bore comedic performances I really dug. Ryan Gosling in Barbie is so much fun to watch. But if I was an Academy member, my vote would go to Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things. He blew me away in that movie when I saw it at Telluride. I walked out of the theater like, damn, he might be a frontrunner in Best Supporting Actor, and it's sad to me in a way he's not going to win anything this whole season for that amazing performance. I like his last 3 Oscar nominations okay. The Kids Are Alright, Foxcatcher, and Spotlights. Like, if I had to rank those, I would put Foxcatcher at the bottom, and then Spotlight, and then The Kids Are Alright. And he also should have been nominated for You Can Count on Me. He is fantastic in that movie. But I think this performance from Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things is some of his best work he's ever done. He is so funny in this and egotistical and just wildly unpredictable in every scene of that film. He went all in on this character 100%. And because this is his 4th nomination and he's never won, yeah, in Best Supporting Actor, my final vote would go to Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things. Next up is Best Supporting Actress. The nominees are Emily Blunt, Oppenheimer, Danielle Brooks, The Color Purple, America Ferrera, Barbie, Jodie Foster, Nyad, and Da'Vine Joy Randolph, The Holdovers. So in Best Supporting Actor, I did not go with the frontrunner, Robert Downey Jr. In Best Supporting Actress, I am going with the person I do believe is going to win the Oscar. She swept the Critics' Prizes. She won at Critics' Choice and Golden Globes. And I mean, we'll see what happens at BAFTA, SAG, and the Oscars. There is this voice in the back of my head that keeps saying, watch out for Emily Blunt. Emily Blunt could win at SAG, and then the Oscar is not necessarily going to be in the bag for Da'Vine Joy Randolph. I still think at the end of the day, Randolph will win. It's just such a beautiful performance. Walking out of The Holdovers at Telluride, I was immediately in love with the movie and the cast. But that Randolph performance, I could not stop thinking about. I am so happy to see her get all of this love this award season, and as much as I admire some of the other performances here, I do think Jodie Foster is outstanding in Nyad. She is great in that. My final vote in Best Supporting Actress would be Da'Vine Joy Randolph in The Holdovers. Alright, let's move on to Best Actor. The nominees are Bradley Cooper, Maestro, Coleman Domingo, Rustin, Paul Giamatti, The Holdovers, Cillian Murphy, Oppenheimer, and Jeffrey Wright, American Fiction. What an amazing category that is. Every time I look at this year's Best Actor lineup, I just smile. Like, even though I do wish Andrew Scott could be there for All of Us Strangers, I do feel like that snub is not going to age very well. I'm pretty happy with this lineup. Any one of those 5 could win. Yes, Bradley Cooper in Maestro. I mean, I do think this is one of the most difficult categories to make a choice because there is so much I love about that Paul Giamatti performance and the Cillian Murphy performance. Coleman Domingo is incredible in Rustin, even though the movie itself is just okay. And I was almost tempted to give my vote to Jeffrey Wright in American Fiction because I have loved him as an actor going back to the 90s. He is so funny and daring in that movie. It's a beautiful 3-dimensional character. So yeah, this is a tough call. Like, it's very close for me. All of these performances, I feel, are very strong. But if I had to pick only one, I would go for Cillian Murphy in Oppenheimer. I do think that is a brilliant performance. He holds that entire 3-hour movie together. I have adored his work going back to the early 2000s, and I think he's been worthy of Oscar nominations before, even when he's in like genre films and not the greatest movies ever made. Cillian Murphy is just one of those great actors who always makes a film better when he shows up. If it's a small supporting role, fantastic. When he's the lead of a movie as extraordinary as Oppenheimer, we celebrate. And so in Best Actor, my final vote would be Cillian Murphy in Oppenheimer. All right, and now Best Actress. The nominees are Annette Bening, Nyad, Lily Gladstone, Killers of the Flower Moon, Sandra Hüller, Anatomy of a Fall, Carey Mulligan, Maestro, and Emma Stone, Poor Things. I have to be honest, it still hurts my heart a little bit to not see Greta Lee there for Past Lives. Greta Lee should have gotten an Oscar nomination for that performance. I know it's very subtle, and the movie is quite small. I mean, I'm still very happy Past Lives got into Best Picture and Best Original Screenplay, but I feel like that movie should have 3 nominations, and Greta Lee should be here. As much as I did admire Annette Bening's performance in Nyad, I do think we could take Bening out here and put Greta Lee in her spot. Then I would be very, very happy about this year's Best Actress lineup. But still, it's very impressive. Some wonderful performances here. My second place would be Sandra Hüller in Anatomy of a Fall. She blew me away in that film. Like, I have not stopped thinking about that performance since I saw that film way back at Telluride. She had a pretty terrific year in 2023 with both Anatomy of a Fall and with The Zone of Interest. She is great in both. So she would be my second place here. But as I've been saying since September, I do think the performance of the year is Emma Stone in Poor Things. I don't think any other performance, male or female, lead or supporting, came close to what she accomplished in Poor Things. And I don't know right now if she's going to win the Oscar. She has won before for La La Land. And that is going to hurt her chances, I think, in the end, because Emma Stone is so young. And so Lily Gladstone still has a shot. And Sandra Hüller is definitely a dark horse right now. Sandra Hüller could win BAFTA, and if Academy voters, they don't want to give Emma Stone another Oscar this soon in her career, and they don't want to give it to Lily Gladstone, Sandra Hüller could take it at the end of the day. We will find out in the weeks to come. But if I was an Academy member, this would be one of my easiest calls on the entire ballot. My final vote in Best Actress would go to Emma Stone in Poor Things. Okay, 2 categories left. Best Director. The nominees are Justine Triet, Anatomy of a Fall, Martin Scorsese, Killers of the Flower Moon, Christopher Nolan, Oppenheimer, Yorgos Lanthimos, Poor Things, and Jonathan Glazer, The Zone of Interest. So this is another close call for me because I'm kind of leaning toward Yorgos Lanthimos for Poor Things. I do love that movie just a little bit more than Oppenheimer, and I've been such a fan of his work going back to The Lobster, The Killing of a Sacred Deer, and especially The Favorites. And I just thought he put his own personal stamp on Poor Things to such a degree that no other filmmaker could have made this movie the way he did. It is such a beautiful piece of art. I love his collaboration with Emma Stone, and what they are able to accomplish together on the screen is really impressive. But Christopher Nolan also did an extraordinary job on Oppenheimer. It might be the best directing job he's ever done, and he's one of my favorite directors, and he's never won an Oscar, right? Like, Yorgos Lanthimos, I feel like his moment is coming in the next few years, whereas Christopher Nolan has deserved to win, I think, at least twice in the last 2 decades. I thought he definitely should have gotten nominated in Best Director for The Dark Knight, one of my favorite comic book movies of all time. And I mean, Interstellar and Dunkirk and Memento. Frickin' Memento at the beginning of his career. That's a great movie too. So, like, I am very close on this one. In some ways, Yorgos Lanthimos has the edge slightly, but because I do feel like Lanthimos will have his time in the years to come, and Christopher Nolan should have had his time years ago. And this year, right now, this is Christopher Nolan's moment to finally win an Academy Award. So yeah, if I was an Academy member, my final vote in Best Director would be Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer. And lastly, Best Picture. The nominees are American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. Just frickin' wow, what a beautiful lineup that is. I mean, if you've been following my reviews over the last year, there are two films I would take out here, Maestro and, sorry, Killers of the Flower Moon. But still, this is an all-timer lineup. I would be happy with so many of these movies winning Best Picture. I mean, Oppenheimer is the frontrunner right now. Outside of a shocker, I do think that's going to win Best Picture, and deservedly so. It is a masterpiece. It's fantastic. That is going to be a great Best Picture winner, but like Anatomy of a Fall would be an amazing win. Barbie, The Holdovers. The Holdovers is one of my 5 favorite films of the year. Same with Poor Things. I would love to see Poor Things be the surprise win. I don't think it's going to happen, even though it did win Best Motion Picture Comedy or Musical at the Golden Globes. I mean, I think if Poor Things can win something big, it will be Best Actress for Emma Stone, not Best Picture. But yeah, I don't think there's any suspense here about what I'm going to choose if I was an Academy member. Am I right? My favorite film of 2023 is Past Lives, and so my final vote in Best Picture would be Celine Song's masterpiece of a movie, Past Lives. Thanks so much for watching and subscribing, and let me know in the comments below, if you were an Academy member, what would you choose to win at the 96th Academy Awards? We'll see you next time at the Awards Contender.